ended a bit abruptly. Evening, folks. How are we doing? Back for another episode. I think it's question time number 66. Absolutely insane stuff. Got Joe joining me again tonight, and Crafty was supposed to be coming on, to be honest with you, but he's a bit MIA at minute, so wait to see what happens with that one. No promises. I'm just going to have a chat about his Momotaro event at the shop, to be honest with you, and give him a bit of a bollocking, so I hope he does come on, because it's going to be good fun. But yeah, got a few bits lined up for this evening. I think a good place to start is with last night's charity auction, which was absolutely phenomenal. Really, so much thanks out to everybody tuned in, participated, donated. We've had some donations to the Just Giving page since as well, which is absolutely amazing. I'm not sure where we're up to, but it was over $4,500 at the last count, and I'm sure we've gone beyond that now, so that's absolutely epic and for an amazing cause as well. So thank you very much for that, guys. And then I've got some bits, some appreciation bits lined up, because I've seen an update. I'd mentioned it last night actually in the auction of one of the customers' fish they've been raising out of our auctions. That just led me, we've got a couple of pieces here that were sold, including growing. So I've done a couple of updates on them for you guys, just to see where it's at and see what these fish that we're selling and bigging up are actually delivering on. I think that's good information for you to have and to see. And then there's another little snippet as well, I believe I've got, because I was on about this Sakai pond last night. I'm absolutely full of love for that stuff at the minute. So I've been down and done a little video update on them this morning, because I needed just to pull a few out to assess where they're at, to decide if I'm going into the pond to actually do another selection, which I am, absolutely. So, got a bit of a sneak of 4 rather tasty koaku coming out of there as well to show you. But as ever, guys, feel free to fire in any questions. That's Crafty now, actually. Any questions that you've got? Just bear with me. Oh, there we go. Just bear with me. We've actually got a guest. I've got a mess backstage guest seeing if he can come in. Actually, the guy who owns the Sankey that I've been on about. So, we'll bring Michael in for sure. Guys. So feel free to start dropping questions into the comments. Anyway, we will deal with that. Absolutely awesome. At some point, let's say the appreciation looking in, and also I've just got a quick update on the Taniguchi event for you now. My apologies to everybody for the delays on this. The guy is doing my nutting, to tell you the truth. There's no issues. We are getting close to sorting it. It's just been getting the videos and everything that I need to actually arrange shipping and the update. So I have now received videos of all the fish in the event, so I'm going to be distributing them out soon to everybody, and then shortly after that we'll be arranging shipping and have the full information for you. And there's going to be something done on my side for the delays in all this, guys. I do assure you of that. So apologies there. This stuff in Japan probably going to be one reconsidered moving forward, because it just gets a little bit too tedious, tell you the truth, especially when you can't control the whole thing end to end. But there we have it. If you guys, if you did my job and dealt with as many breeders and stuff as I did, I think you'd be shocked at how complicated and stressful it is at times, certainly pulling shipments together and all the rest of it. And the amount of stuff that does actually go wrong behind the scenes is phenomenal, especially when it comes down to individual fish and batches and stuff like that. But just seeing as well, I don't know if we've had the live stream blocked. I'm not sure, guys. Let me just bring Joe on.
That was a.
What's going on, Joe?
It seems like a spam account called Livestream that I've blocked.
Oh right, sorry, you did it.
Yeah. So
fair play. Guys. So let's say, feel free to start banging some questions. We'll leave Joe in now anyway for a little bit. How are you getting on, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, it's all good at the minute. I'm off at the end of next week, so just trying to get ahead with bits of magazines, but just done another interview with about skin pigmentation and how koi digest certain things in food, and then it relates to colour pigmentation, which I feel like I've learnt a right lot from Dr. David Poole, who we've got another article coming in the next edition of Koi
Oh,
Talk.
nice.
Yeah, it's some interesting stuff happening. I'm learning all the time, so yeah, it's good stuff.
Good fun, mate, isn't it? So Sakai is going to be a big topic tonight, and when I speak about Sakai, I'm only talking about Sakai Fish Farm in Hiroshima. Probably undisputedly, to be honest, the world's best Kohaku Sanki breeder. I always say that, and then it's always a close second between that and Dainichi for me. Those two guys are just crazy. Yeah, so what are you thinking about them, Joe? You've seen them up here. You've seen what they've been doing.
Yeah, I think I'm just astonished, really. I mean, to be fair, it's almost as though there's something that happens with them over when they get to. Obviously, when I joined, they were only probably 20 centimeters or something like that, and then over the course of like watching them grow out in length, but over the last month or so, I'd say they've kind of grown out width-wise. And I don't know if you've changed anything with what you're doing, or if it's just the life cycle of watching them grow. But there's something definitely changed over the last month or so, I'd say, body-wise. And it's not just growth in length; it's a growth in mass.
Yeah, it's often after each selection, mate. To be honest with you, that's where with the high stocking levels, this is what I always say: getting growth in length is easy. Getting growth of body volume is where the skill of the feeding really comes in. And when them stocking levels are so high, it often takes a selection to get that next level of body volume. And that's kind of where they're at now. You know, the volume's impressive, certainly where they've come from. But there's a lot more I can extract out of them yet. So seems like the spammers are having great fun with the account tonight. Your Steve will fight that one in the background. Yeah, so I probably should just share with you the first little video I've got. You've not seen this yet, Joe, either. So I went into the pond today, pulled up 4 fish just to see where they were at. Size-wise, blown away. Was hitting 37 to 40 cm already, and the stocking level is at 130 pieces
Jesus.
as well, which is crazy in that 3.5K pond. So just to share with you, this is the little snippet that I took.
Oh, wow.
They are not too shoddy.
No, they're not.
So really, really happy with where the body's at right now for that kind of size as well. And these are perfectly primed for going on to the next level. But I do lift them in a minute just to show you the true Benny quality. Look at that.
Yeah. The one thing that always surprises me is that you can push these fish so hard with the food, and the body, you know, the actual bone structure of the fish can keep up with the actual growth. Like, you know, you do see some fish, they seem to like, the head seems to like maybe play catch up sometimes with the rest of the body, whereas, you know, with these, the whole, you know, the skull and everything else is growing at the same proportion.
Yeah, well, it never actually catches up, Joe. To be fair, that's just in the art selection. Obviously, the lineage genetics is there, which is a big part of delivering the strength of that structure. But yeah, overall, I think we should probably just run that again because I enjoyed watching that.
Yeah,
and then we have got Mike Payne, who owns the Sankey we featured last night, in the studio. So we'll get him on in a minute. Just bear with me. Yeah, look at that.
Amazing.
Just loving it. And I know that's literally, you know, the water's a bit murky. They're just kind of the first kind of 4 that caught my attention, but got all the Sankey and another 125 of them, 126 of them to go at, to be fair. And I know there's some in there bigger as well. It's just great.
It's just the body mass that's impressive with them. What's your aims with them? You know, October, November time with these. Like, what's your goal in mind?
Yeah, by the end of the growing season, we're wanting 50, 55 cm this side because that's where they're going to be at the farm at the bare minimum. So that's where I'm expecting to be.
Yeah.
With them as well. So it's just going to find in that stocking level to get them down. But honestly, I can't say it enough. These big lineages really do. The fish do live up to the hype. There's not one now where I've kind of had them in. Issa, Showa, Dainichi, Kohaku Dainichi Showa, and all the other Dainichi bits I've done. Yellow Monkeys, all the rest of it. And then Sakai now as well. It's just, yeah, they live up to the hype big time.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, need one in your pond, Joe.
I know. I will do if you ever give me a price on one.
Brilliant. Right, so what I'm going to do, Joe, I'm just going to drop you off if you don't mind, mate.
Yeah,
and I'm going to bring Mike in for a chat. So I'll bring you back on in a bit, buddy. Mike, how you doing, mate?
Hello, Ricky. Not bad, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure. Nice to meet you. So you're the guy that beat the dealer.
I'm feeling very smug about that at the moment.
Awesome. So just for everybody to recap, I've got the pictures loaded in. So you bought this from our live auction. It was a toe side that we did hype up a fair bit. That was the one back there. So this was back in 28th of March.
Somewhere around there.
Superb Sakai fish, 18 cm, and I'd let it go because of my annoyance with Benny in the tail.
Yeah.
Which
I have to say as well, it wasn't actually me that bought the fish; it was my wife.
Fair play.
There's a bit of a story to it. So I work a lot on business, and I showed her the auctions, and she actually logged on to an auction while I was in the middle of flying to Germany for a business meeting. And when I landed, she said, "Oh, I've got something to tell you." And I thought she was going to tell me she was pregnant or something. I was, starting to worry. But she says, "I bought a fish." And I said, "What fish have you bought?" And she told me the price of it. I wasn't sure whether to be upset or delighted. But the way it's growing, definitely delighted.
Yeah, nice, mate. So tell us what ponds setup that's been in. You've got a grow on pond as well, main pond, haven't you?
Yes and no. I'm not running a grow on anymore. So basically, in Germany, found out some information on this fish, and I believe we found out through my dealer Howie that you had it in a heated pond. My pond was ambient at that time. I was about 14 degrees. So I thought, well, we're going to receive this. I got to set something up quite quickly. So I actually I blagged an IBC off of my brother who had a couple kicking around his business, and I set it up with a dustbin full of K1 and a pump, and I fashioned some contraption for with a heater for the first couple of months, just to have somewhere warm to put it. Nice. And then in the meantime, I've added a heater to my main pond now, which is 42,500 gallon. Sorry, 42,500 litres.
I'm going to say that's some heater on 42,500 gallon.
Yeah, so we've got that up to temperature, and now they've gone into the main pond.
Phenomenal. So just to share with everybody where this fish is at currently, when was that picture taken?
Yesterday, I believe.
Yesterday. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, talk about living up to the expectation. And I'm gutted, really gutted that's still not swimming around here.
I nearly didn't get it out. I was getting another one of the fish out just to check it out. It's one that had a bacterial infection earlier in the year, and I just wanted to check up on it. And because the pond's quite long, I had them all in the drag net, and I thought, I'm just going to get this out and have a look at it. And very happy with what we found.
So what size is it up to now?
32 at the moment.
32. Nice. So there's another overlay for you guys just to see what that's done. Nice, sort of steady, predictable development, that one. You had some nice sumi progression on it, actually, as well. Certainly on just behind the first Dan and Benny there. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and a little bit coming in down by the peduncle I was quite happy with as well, that coming through.
Yeah, superb. And the Benny's receded in the tail.
Still a little bit there, Ricky, don't worry, but hopefully it'll all go.
This is always one of them. This is the thing with the breeders as well. There's often them moments where I'll think, what has he just done there? When I've seen them selecting, and you just get into a headspace sometimes and stupid little things creep in, and then that's can be the results of it. So crazy stuff. But anyway, have you got anything you'd like to ask this evening?
Yeah, a couple of things. We've had a few fish out of the auctions, this being sort of price piece, the most expensive one. We've had a couple from, I'm assuming, the same bloodline, same batch. I don't actually know which bloodline it is. I know it's Sakai.
Sakai Fish Farm, that is the lineage, Sakai.
Sakai Fish Farm. That is the lineage, okay.
Yeah, there's different parent sets within it.
Okay.
So, but the main overriding thing with the blood, Sakai is probably the most prominent lineage up there with Dainichi of Kohaku and Sankey today. Certainly in Sankey, Sakai is top dog. so many other lineages now using the Sakai bloodline within them to create, their own lineage. And I mean, you've just got these different parent sets within that can produce variations, but ultimately the lineage is where it's at because there's one overriding stable pool of traits. And then all they're doing is basically keeping them traits alive and improving on them through the different parent fish that are introduced along the way. The Dragon Ball lineage, you've probably seen us on about a lot this year. That's an example. Dragon Ball is a particular parent set within the Sakai bloodline.
So would this one be from a different parent set to the Dragon Ball? It's another family?
Yeah. So these weren't Dragon Ball. We don't know the exact sets of these ones because of the batch of fish that it was from. But it's not Dragon Ball. It'd be one of the others. But like I say, you get an overriding, consistent set of characteristics from Sakai in general, regardless of the parent set. There can just often sometimes be some quirks. They once had the Dynamite line. I'm not sure if they're still using it, where a massive Uchiba was crossed into the Kohaku line. Can't remember if it was called Magnum, something like that. But that's when you can often get these variants, and you think, all right, fair enough. And then there's the odd lineage that's produced, more show-winning fish than others because they're at such a scale. They can have all these different sets. But like I say, although there can be some quirks and variations, ultimately you've got this main overriding Sakai lineage trait, i.e. the body, the Benny quality, and things like that.
Okay, so we had a few Sankis, like I said. 3 of them were from Sakai Fish Farm, and 1 was from Okawa. And we've noticed that as they're growing, they're completely different in shape and body and form. So what is your thoughts on this particular one that you had the image of, where you think that's going to go? And should I be looking into taking it to shows?
Shows, absolutely. That is a hell of a piece. If it's something if you're actually considering getting into, you've got a fish there that can do the business for sure. It's not ready yet, so let's just get the picture back over. Yeah, not ready yet. I'd be keeping going with it, but I mean, it's technically seriously good piece. Do it for sure. So just you want to get the sumi up a bit more. There's a lot more you can eke out of the body yet as well. You can see that quite clearly. But I'd keep going with it, but definitely a future for the shows for sure.
Yeah, it's my first real season in the hobby, so I'm completely new to all this. I've never even been to a show. I've been to like one dealer. I've never even seen a show quality fish. So we're booked in to do the one up in Newark, is it?
The Great British.
Come and have a look around there and see what's on. But I don't know from there what the process is. Can I turn up with one fish? Have I got to bring a whole load of fish?
No. So you book your bat. From what I can tell, people will tell you more than me, but you book your bat, and I believe there's a system. Obviously, you've got to control the stocking level. Can't remember if it's a point system that they're still using, or what it is to determine how many fish you can have in your vat overall. But I think if you wanted to just take that one, you could. I wouldn't advise it because your vat will probably not look so strong. But that it's a serious piece. But I would say if you're not quite there yet in the hobby, I'd spend a little bit longer finding your feet, learning about raising them, developing, getting on that before you get into that circle personally. Get to know what works for you in the hobby and your own mind, I think, especially before you get to a point where other people, there's a lot of influence around them showgrounds. And to be honest with you, would scare me, you're getting in there at too early a stage and it having a really negative influence on the hobby for you, because it can do. I've seen it happen too much, and that's my take on it. Give yourself some time, enjoying the hobby, learning, getting to know what you really like, and like I say, improving your own knowledge before you dive into that world.
Okay. But so my takeaway from that is that we need more fish to fill up the vat. So Grace, if you're watching, we need to buy more fish.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Love that bit.
Brilliant. So I had another question. I got a couple of just pond related questions if you're happy to.
Fire away.
So my pond, like I said, it's 42,500 litres. It's uncovered. It's in the ground. And I built it with a liner.
Yep.
Now, whenever I hear anybody talking about a liner, it's kind of a basic entry, not the preferred method. Why is that? Is it because of the way that it traps the dirt going into the bottom drains, or
it can be how you fit it. There's a lot of snobbery involved in that. Not going to lie, pisses me off to see it. My actual preferred, I do like fiberglass when it's been done properly, but it can come with its own risks. My probably overall preferred choice would be a properly box welded liner, but with the kind of standard of preparation you would do to have your pond fiberglassed. Because the lines are great. I've only got now 5 ponds here that are fiberglassed, and they're only fiberglass because they were originally painted and all that went to shit, and it was just easier to glass them than line them. Every other pond on site is butyl liner.
Okay. So yeah, my pond it's quite an organic shape, so it's got, as best I could, lots of neat and tidy little folds, and I've tried to direct them all towards the bottom drains, and I don't seem to be having too much of an issue.
You won't. There's a lot more to say about trapping stuff. Don't get me wrong. You've got the folds. I've actually got there's big folds in the corner to keep the liner actually nice and flat, but they're all taped down. So it's only if the tape fails, which it does occasionally, don't get me wrong, where you can get a build up of crap behind the seam there. But other than that, it's really not too bad. You know, when you've got a decent stock pond, decent water movement, bottom drains, more often than not, you're going to keep a pretty clean pond anyway.
Yeah.
If you take down to it, the reality is, if it was a choice between pump-fed bottom drain or liner fiberglass, you're better off with the liner and the bottom drain than pump-fed and fiberglass. If you see me. So, of course, that's straight away there. The pump-fed systems with the pump in the pond do not clean the base as efficiently as a bottom drain does.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I do own a scuba tank. I have been in there a few times to hoover the bottom, get the bottom drains up and do all that. I do enjoy it.
But yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, fiberglass in a pond of that size is going to be a crazy cost as well. But I for what, you know, if you can get the liner and have that in and fitted properly, that's where I go. In Europe, Boxwell liner is all the rage. You know, it's the thing primarily used, and I can see why.
Okay, cool. Another question for you. pH. A lot of people talk about pH crashes. pH is going down. I struggle to get mine down. It's up at like 8.5. I've got no idea why. Sometimes I've checked it and it's gone down to like 8. I think that there's some sort of relationship with having my aerated bottom drains on. I don't have them on full blast, just a little trickle. But whenever I've got the air on, it seems that the pH goes up. Does that ring true at all?
I've not necessarily known that. You don't put it on at different times of the day, do you?
No, it's either on or it's off. I try and stick with one. At the moment, I had loads of floating particulates, so I turned them off. I'm going to let it all settle and I'm going to hoover it up because that's.
I think the big thing I say with pH is, because people get too hung up on this, the biggest thing with pH is not necessarily the value, it's the stability. So I don't know do you know what you are out of your mains water?
It's about 7.5.
Oh, is it really? Now that's a curious one.
Yeah.
7.5 out of there, and you're obviously there's something alkali pushing that upwards in and around the pond. Because to be at 7.5 and raising up to 8.5, you've got to start looking environmental there as to what's causing that. And I was
maybe a runoff sort of issue. I'm thinking I've got like a split face stone wall next to it.
Yeah,
that's slate, so I'm not sure.
That's mate. To be honest with you, I'd be looking into that one, because if you're 7.5 out, which is a nice value to have. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're 8.5 stable in your pond, that's fine. But that might be why you're getting some drop off, and it might be if your air's on, you're possibly degassing, you're changing the CO2 values a bit. There's a lot you're going to do and alter, but ultimately, my concern in everything you've told me there is you're 7.5 out your tap and you're raising up to 8.5 after. So maybe one for you to investigate with Matt, that one.
Okay, I'll have a little deeper dig into that one then.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I say, just coming back to it, and for everyone listening, my key focus with pH is stability. The bit you want is minimize. You will get swings; it's natural, but it's just the size of the swings. You know, if you're swinging 7.5 to 8.5, that's going to do your fish no good. But an 8 to 8.5 and that kind of swing throughout the day can be perfectly normal at times. But like I say, stability is key. But yeah, in your instance, given there's such a variation between tap and pond, I'd want to investigate that further.
Okay, I'll look into it. Another question for you. Biochambers.
Yes.
Retention times and turnovers, etc. I've recently turned my biochamber down a lot, and I've noticed my nitrite has gone away, which probably doesn't surprise you. But my question is that I've heard you say a few times about putting the whole pond through that biochamber once every 2 hours, I think it is, you state.
Yeah.
You've said before. If you've got a little biochamber, that water is not actually going to be contacting as much as if you had a big biochamber. So how long do you actually want the water in there for?
This is a real one for debate. They used to say back in the day, a multi-bay filters kind of 10 to 15 minutes, which when you actually work out retention, and I'm going to get the calculation. I'll make a note of that. In fact, Steve, make a note for me, retention time calculation, and do some example figures for next week's episode. Because but then you obviously talk, since K1 come to market, more people with that are of the opinion you don't need as long. But when I've done some of the calculations in the past with some of these things, it's almost in and out, and that's just never going to work. So you have got a big difference because, you're right. If you're aiming for a pond turnover, pond turnover and retention time are two completely different things. Your turnover will dictate part of retention time, but also you can have a turnover once every 2 hours, but still, as you've kind of raised there, not have a great retention time in your filter if it's a small chamber. So it's striking the balance with that one. But for me, slower is always better through the filter. But you do need to, the minimum, I don't want to be going beyond once every couple of hours for turnover. So, if you've got a small biochamber, they might need to be looking there at ways you can increase that turnover a bit while retaining the slower pull through your biochamber.
Sure, yeah. I've recently, I changed it from a couple of other boxes. It's a DIY system, so I had a couple of boxes that was doing it. And now I've actually put an IBC in as my biochamber. And it's gone with the same amount of media. It's gone from being a 30-second retention time to a 5-minute retention time just by making the volume bigger. And,
exactly. This is, to be honest with you, an art that I think's really died in koi keeping, because once upon a time you'd have everybody sitting designing the filter system, and that was such a big thing. And even with multi-bays, you'd be designing your own layout of your multi-bay, or whether you had a vortex or your brushes and what media you put in your chambers and all the rest of it and that kind of thing. So that these days, I don't think many people could sit down and tell you much about filtration concepts. They'd probably tell you a lot about a drum filter or an Nexus or something like that. But the actual concepts of filtration, I think, are gone. And that's what you would sit down and do, and it's what I'm looking at in the ponds I'm about to start rejigging. When you're designing a biochamber, you need to consider the size and volume of the chamber based on the turnover of the size of the pond you're looking to achieve, how much media you'll need based on how much you want it to feed, not necessarily how much you want to stock. I don't think these are the conversations people have when they're looking at building a pond. Don't get me wrong, a lot just get on with it and then learn after. Nothing wrong with that bit either. But when it comes to building, often your first pond, that's a great way. But when you come to the second pond, third pond, there's a lot to do. You're more seriously into it. That's, I think, the time when you probably want to be sitting and designing and asking more of these questions about what you're doing. And I think it's where a lot of systems fall short these days as well. If we look at what's happened, it's because people don't actually think of the bigger concepts and just look at the equipment and go, oh, well, they say that drum filter, does 20,000 litres. They say that Nexus does 4,000 gallons, and not considering all the other variables that are actually really important to have a successful pond based on what you want it to do.
Definitely. So my pond setup's completely changed from when I first built it. I did loads of internet research. I was actually going down the route of BCB baskets with all the cat litter in them and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then I was having massive parasite problems, and I can't say that it was definitely them that was harboring it, but I thought whip them out. I'd started at that point engaging in all your content, and I just followed your rules. Keep it nice and simple. I've got a drum filter.
Yeah.
IBC is a biochamber. That's it. Oh, and a UV. Little bit of inspiration from Lee Hatfield as well. All goes through the drum, half goes back to the pond, half goes through the biochamber. I think that's how it's set up.
Exactly. It's just giving a little bit more consideration to these ideas. But things change, don't they? But the problem is, most of the time, the lack of information gets put out there. Because I think what I saw initially with turnover rates, this all changed when showers came to market. And all of a sudden, a concept there from one farm in Japan was being pushed heavily. And it trickles down. It always does, especially when people with a bit of a voice of pushing these concepts, and that's what ended up happening. Then all of a sudden people became obsessed with turnover without fully understanding it's come from a farm that's really, really intensively raising fish. And it works with one given filtration concept, but what's good for that one isn't good for the submerged filter lines. So, yeah, it's when all this stuff comes out, it's truly understanding what's going on with it. It's like with drum filters, the concept behind a drum is great, getting that waste out of the water body on a frequent basis. But is there a cheaper, more efficient way? If you actually boil the concept down, is there a way that you can do that without having to spend several £1,000s on a drum filter?
Yeah.
Interesting times, always changing, mate.
Yeah, hopefully I'll leave it alone now. I might be putting a little DIY shower in, but then I'm done, not touching it, because my wife is actually pregnant now. So I've been told.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I've got a big DIY project on my hands to sort the house out ready. So no time to fill around with help.
Having seen how you've done with that fish, I'd say leave it be. Probably, if anything, focus attention and learning towards feeding, especially if you're now investing in heating in the summertime. Focus that attention towards improving your feeding skill, because you'll get a lot of reward from that.
That was going to be my last question for you, actually. I've heard you on a number of times talk about number of feeds per day, and you watch them, and sometimes I've heard you say 5 minutes, sometimes I've heard you say 10 minutes. I can't remember how many feeds a day you're doing. What's the magic ratio?
Really all depending on temperatures, where we're at. So then I say this all the time, there's a big difference in the fish even between 22 and 25 degrees, hence why I flicked the boiler on earlier this week again, because I had the evening temperatures dropping out, starting to lose some of that temperature. But yeah, I'm aiming generally with Tosai. This is always a big difference as well. With Tosai, I'm kind of hitting every 2 hours at 25 degrees. I would consider, Tosai at every 2 hours at 22 degrees is okay. What you might find is on heavy feeding, they'll get bulkier. And that's a mechanism you can use to increase volume and drop it off, is also fluctuating the temperatures a little bit and doing it that way. When it gets to the Nisai and above, typically I'm dropping onto a 3 hour program. Just because the feeding behavior changes. They're not as aggressive at feeding. It takes a lot longer to eat. So what I'll do is I'll feed every 3 hours, and what I'll do is I'll allow them to be eating for 1 hour. So I've basically got a 2 hour rest period in between each feed.
Okay. So how many feeds a day was that? Was that on the 6?
Oh yeah. So I generally start feeding from 5 to 6 in the morning, depending on which I'm on. On the higher cycle, every 2 hours, I start at 6 and finish at 10 every 2 hours throughout there. And I would be wise for you to sort of give it a 5-minute feeding window per feed.
Yeah. When I've got a mixed pond, it's slightly difficult. So because I don't know if you remember, I've also got one of your Karashi guys, which just hoovers up any food available. Yeah. So my tactic has been, although the Tosai are big enough to have the 6 mil pellet, I'm actually feeding the whole pond on 3 mil, just because it slows the Karashi guy down. And then they were having about 7 minutes. The Tosai are big enough now that I have actually switched them to 6. What was 8 seconds on my feeder is now 20 seconds on my feeder to get the same amount of food. And I've maxed the feeder out. I need a new feeder.
Okay. Which feeder have you got?
The Evolution Aqua one.
Oh yeah. Get yourself a JBL one, buddy.
Yeah. I was actually showing Grace that earlier. So
yeah,
again,
get one of them ordered up, mate. They're a good bit of kit. They are. Yeah, happy days. Hope that's useful, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy your Sankey, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll see if I can get another one out of the auction off you.
Absolutely. Good luck. Cheers, pal. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
That was very nice. Nice to have a guest on. Anybody else watching? Get yourself booked on. Look, it's not all that scary. Nice list of questions and a good conversation that everybody can learn from. You can't beat it. I did just see we've got Surrey Koi in the house. So combi drums are really not worth having, as you can't spread the time. My take on it, mate, is I don't like the combi systems, full stop. I dislike combis as much as I dislike growth foods that have all these special bells and whistles, such as colour food added and all the rest of it, because I want the system to perform how I want it to. And basically, when a lot of these combined systems are being done, it's being based on what the mechanical part does. in the end. And yeah, sometimes they work, but only really work for one specific kind of setting. So yeah, not a big fan. I'd be much prefer separates and doing, you know, things designed exactly how I want it to. But that's me. I'm not saying your combis are, you know, wrong. If it works for you, fantastic. I think that's, to be honest with you, an issue even down to the Nexus kind of level at times is the mechanical side of it. Sometimes could do with being bigger than the bio side actually offers. You know, sometimes it just don't just marry up. 300 litres of K1 is going to be great for a lot of people, but at the kind of feeding level you can throw at 300 litres of K1, the ease is just too small, in my opinion, and that's often where it falls short. So, yeah, that's my take on all that one. And like I say, even like with food, you know, I can't stand it when you've got manufacturers just chucking all kinds of shit in there to make it look like it's good value because it's got this, that, and the other in. When I want to grow food, I want the grow food to do one specific thing: build body, get growth. When I want to colour food, I will add that in at the ratio I want it to based on what I'm doing. That's how all professional products should be designed. So there we go. Right, we're going to move straight on to the next one, which I believe Craft is here. I'm also going to get, we'll get Joe back in after that one. So there we go. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's happened to air, mate?
Mate, don't, right? Little story. So I cut my own hair because I'm tight as arseholes, right?
Wow, that is
Up
tight.
there. One blade one, said to our lass, that look all right? She went, yeah, looks perfect. I said, just tidy the neck up, give her the clippers, and she went straight at the back of my head, man. So I'm now baldy bald. Madness. I was raging, mate, I tell you. I ain't got much hair as it is, you know.
Nah, that's class.
Yeah.
How's things
You look
going?
knackered, bruv.
No, I'm good, mate. I'm good today.
Oh, mate.
Just gets this time, I get a bit hungry. People should know that with me. I very easily hit the hangry stage. When I get hungry, it's like I must have a massive blood sugar dip, and it hits me a bit.
So I get that. I get that.
Shocking, lightweight, eh?
Oh dear, mate! I've just done about 90 on the motorway all the way home because I thought you were starting at 6:30. So I thought I was like, yeah, left work a little bit early to give myself plenty of time, and then spoke to Stephen Edgew in the background. I was like, right, drop that, whoop.
Well, it's I'm balancing childcare on a Thursday because it's one night the missus works late at the salon, so I have to get it done at 6.
That's fair. Fair enough.
So, mate, you've got something going on at the shop. You've also got a bollocking coming. So,
well, to be fair, I'm quite happy to have a bollocking, mate, because
it is actually a positive bollocking, people, by the way, when you understand where Craft is at with it. But you've got a Momotaro grow and show event on at the weekend. This is a batch of fish that I procured for you. Phenomenal batch, really. Momotaro, I don't think needs too much introduction. Superb fish. I've also got some here. I mean, overall, we had a batch of koraku that went to Perfect Aquatics and one that went, I actually hand selected out of a different pond, koraku and sankey. I've got all them here. I've released very few yet. I'm kind of hoarding them at the minute and enjoying them, to be honest. It's been a long time since I had Momotaro fish here. And yeah, Crafty's batch is pretty awesome. They're a hell of a size, aren't they?
Yeah, mate. We've
what kind of size are they now?
35 cm, the biggest one is.
Crazy. Must be 30, 35 then, average, looking at them.
Yeah, so yeah, you're looking circa 32, 33 on average. But there's some amazing fish, and those people that don't know, we have been putting bits and bobs out, but the video I made, my microphone failed, so no one could hear what I was saying. So we only get one shot. So I managed to slice a bit up. I had Alan Tate down because he's judging the grow and show as well. So Alan Tate come down last weekend and he went through all of them. And Alan, as a judge, I appreciate his opinion. And he was absolutely gobsmacked at the quality that we've got, but at the eye-watering price of £200 a fish.
Right.
Which I know that you don't like.
So now you need to stop, and people really need to understand this. So obviously, I knew what you was going to do with them. We've not discussed, you've not mentioned the price or anything, and then I saw it drop on Facebook, I don't think.
And then your arsehole fell out.
It didn't take me long to ring you, did it? To sort of say,
Right.
what the fuck have you done? Have you not read your numbers?
Yeah, well, it's part of a bigger picture, bigger plan. I couldn't get to any shows this year, merely down to the fact that, you know, I've only been at Perfect Aquatics 3.5 months, and they take a lot of planning shows, believe it or not, don't they? You know.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, right, if I can't get to a show, bring a show to me. Having such a large establishment has given me the option to, you know, put a little event on. Main thing is to get people through the door. Mate, so once a copper, always a copper. Get people through the door, but also to put Perfect Aquatics on the map as well, because you know, in recent times, it's not been as prevalent as probably it is right now. And it's quite nice for people to come down and having the light support of you, Alan, Lee, etc. It all brings, you know, extra sort of people in. So rather than being at a show, it's actually even better for people to come through the door and see what the establishment's about. So not only am I doing a growing show for 200 quid for Momotaro Jumbo Tozai, which are exceptional quality, by the way, I would price those fish at probably $4.95 a piece at the bottom end. And there's some well above that as well. So if you've got a good eye, you're going to get yourself an absolute steal.
Honestly, guys, you can't begin to. I'm still shocked because I've not known many people get as balls. I mean, it's basically a marketing campaign, Let's boil it down. That fish is being lost on each one. Money's being lost on each fish that sells.
Yeah, a lot of money as well.
I do get why you're doing it, but guys, honestly, this is an opportunity that it's not going to come around again. I mean, getting the things is hard enough. You just don't see, you know, many batches of Momotaro Jumbo Tozai in the country. To have that choice and this price and everything, I mean, hats off to you. And I mean, amazing to make it so accessible to so many people. And that's all I would say is if you're not part of it and you can afford it, get in there before the weekend, because it's madness. It is absolute madness.
We've sold 50 tickets.
Yeah.
Some people have bought 2 that have actually come down to see them.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few. Well, I'll say quite a few. I've had 3 or 4 people ring and say, "Can I get a second one, Crafty?" Of course you can.
Yeah.
You know. But I haven't announced the prizes. So prizes are best growth on unheated pond, best growth heated pond. And I'm also doing a little spin where I've got YouTubers involved. Lee Hadfield's coming down, Koi Soldier, coming across to support me as me busy mate, as everyone knows. I've got Gaz's Koi Pond coming down. I've got Rick from New Forest coming over. Vince from Twisties coming over as well. Anyone that enters a growing show will associate themselves to a YouTuber. And then when I get the results back, which is going to be the end of May next year, the average growth for the team will then, well, they'll get a little wooden spoon trophy for best team average growth across the board. But the prize, or part of the prize for the best growth and best quality by ad and take, by the way, you will get a free fish on the next growing show.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, and if they don't want that fish, they will get a store equivalent value of what that would retail at.
Nice.
On the day itself as well, though, I'm also doing a Japanese style auction. So Yellow Monkey's up for grabs at Nisai.
I got troubles in the house, school holidays.
I'll see him. So we've got one fish, which is Yellow Monkey. I've got a Goshki as well, and a couple of secret Sankey in there.
Nice.
So there's some real nice fish to be had, and they're going to be at a really reduced level as well. Again, giving people opportunities, you know, that they wouldn't normally get. But not only that, I'm also doing a 30% reduction of sale to anybody that buys a ticket across most of the koi lines in the shop, including dry goods and food. And I'm also running a pre-order for Sakai Akari on a 10% discount.
Fair play.
So, you know, so much going on.
Well worth spending the 200 quid anyway.
Exactly, but you know, like I said, I couldn't get to a competition, Rick. So, you know, I'm bringing competition sort of prices to people that want to take part and be part of the event. Oh, and we've also given a free lunch at the Koi Cafe and free coffees and teas for all.
Sound good
Can't
stuff,
get, mate. It's like all bargains, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you never know. There might be another surprise on the day, but we'll wait and see.
Okay, not confirmed yet then.
We'll wait and see.
But I'm looking forward to it, man. It's a hell of a lot. If you want to buy a ticket, website's up and running. www.perfectaquatics.com. You may get a pop-up saying Koi Grow Out event. If you don't, just go into Koi and there is a subcategory for the Koi Grow Out event. £200 a ticket, unlimited tickets, as long as you put 200 quid in for each fish.
Fair play, mate. Yeah, nice one. So just want to end on, mate, because you obviously you're a bit invested in the Sakai grow on at our place, but I see Alan's in the house now, so let's put a bit of fish porn on. Don't know if you'll have been driving when I popped this in, so I've been in that pond where you've also got a few pieces growing on.
Yeah, they're up for sale as well on the website, by the way.
Yeah, enough plugging now, Craft. I'm going to have to start charging you after this, mate. Fucking hell. Yeah, so these are at the pond's ready. It needs splitting up. We thought it was, so I just thought I'd go in and check exactly where they're at. You just had a quick question there. Can you get down? Can you take part if you can't get down and pick? I believe you can.
You can, but what will happen is Lee Hadfield will do a pick for you. But if you can't get down, it's going to be a £25 cost for transport of your koi.
Fair play.
Okay. I will do that for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, here you go, mate. This'll excite you. I don't think your fish is in here, but this is 4 fish out of that pond this morning. Currently at 37 to 40 cm. They are looking absolutely mega.
I'll tell you what, Rick, them Momotaro, once they're in the right pond with a better feeding regime than what I've had to keep, they will touch the same as that, mate. I swear.
Oh, yeah, these things, this is what I've been on about, is the quality of these lineages. That's a name I forgot to mention, Momotaro, but the fish from these guys, Sakai, Dainichi, Momotaro, they absolutely live up to the hype.
Mate, that one's banging. I do like that one, mate.
The body on this as well.
Mate, that one is banging. I like that.
Yeah, that's top piece, that one.
I'll have that.
I bet you will.
Yeah.
Quality stuff, mate. So
you're doing well, mate. How many pieces do you have in that pond?
130.
What have you split it to now?
No, it's still at 130.
Oh my!
They're just now on the roster to be split up at some point. I've been on the Odecan shower again this week, so I've had a cow of fish. Working on. It's just constant. You can't leave these ponds alone. It's all just nicking maximum centimeters all along the way. So
yeah, it's a test, isn't it?
Awesome stuff. All right, clock's ticking, mate. I'm going to drag Joe back in, but good to hear from you. Like I say, we'll see if we get a surprise on Sunday. But if not, guys, enjoy it, make the most of it, take part if you can, because trust me, the chance like this coming around again, I think if Crafty probably does it again, he might be getting the sack. So
no, you won't have such bigger discounts on the next ones, guys.
No. Crazy. So happy days. Right, mate. I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers, buddy.
Hiya.
Are you taking part in that, Joe? I'd recommend it, mate, at that price. Jesus Christ.
I know. To be fair, I was just having a look on website myself, and there's some very nice pieces in that.
Absolutely balmy.
Problem is, I want to be there when you harvest this Sakai pond as well. Not that I've got a chance of getting out, but
it won't be 200 quid, mate, either.
I know.
Not a chance. Brilliant. Right, so I suppose what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through these fish, and then I'm just going to end with the few questions that we've actually had coming tonight. I think we've been nattering that much. People must have just been engrossed in the conversation.
To be fair, it was quite nice to see Mike get one over on you with that Sankey. To be fair, I feel like there's some post-release regret going on there.
It's good fun. As long as he's happy, that's what matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a few more. So obviously our auctions every week, we do put a big effort into picking the fish to, ensure that these are fish we feel from our experience have, some future ahead, some longevity. We set those starting prices based on where we think that quality's at, etc. as well. And we've done the odd ones where we've known they've been good fish, including the growing as well. So following on from the Sakai Sank you've just featured, here is another one. Went for a fairly decent sum of money, to be honest, at 23 cm. I think this was actually after the first lot that Michael's fish was involved in. But, hell of a potential piece. Really, really excited by this one, as we can see there back on the 25th of April. At 23 cm. So again, excuse my pictures here, but this was just shot on the phone earlier today. I've got a video as well, but that's hitting 36 cm already now, and no real loss of quality. There's been a tiny bit of sumi drop off with the heat, but here we go. See the video of it there. Look, see that quality a bit more. Really, really living up to where we thought it would go.
Mm-hmm.
Coming along nicely now, and again, confident we'll be getting that one 45 to 50 by the end of the growing season. And then it's going to look a real strong piece. By the
there's not a lot of Benny refinement to do there, is there? To be fair, even at the high temperatures, the Benny looks so. There's there's a tiny bit of sachet on that back bit, but. Yeah,
it's super. Obviously, the Benny always does. It softens a bit, but that's what's been so good with these fish all along. It's just been so prominent and so strong. Lovely Subo Sumi. It's just a banging piece. Great body development. So yeah, I'm sure the customer's going to be happy. I feel a great deal of responsibility when we're doing this for customers, and obviously try and get the absolute best result. But it's important that we have a lot of confidence in the fish in the first place, because otherwise that bit could ultimately just fall short and make us look stupid and lead to disappointment. And then one that really did, there was a massive battle on for this one, mate. I think this is going to shock you in a minute. So obviously the Ginrin Karashi Goi from the Yellow Monkey line, this one went for quite a considerable sum. Again, just not that many. So 33 cm back on the 25th of April. Pulled that out today. Now, this fish was growing with the Dainichi Koraku. I've moved it out of there. This is actually currently growing with Dainichi Nisai, because I couldn't think of another place to put it where it would kind of balance and not negatively impact the group it went in with. And sure enough, measured it today, got it out. Just see the video first. That's it currently. That is currently sat at 47 cm.
Wow.
Absolute savage.
They're just machines, aren't they? They are.
Got to start. That pond is due for a sort of feed change regime, but you could do with more body volume. You can't quite. You'll actually see it in a minute when I lift it a little bit. There's actually a fair bit there.
Wow.
I want to pump that volume harder. But yeah, growth-wise, 47. This is going to rock it past 55. I think possibly towards 60 cm by the time the customer actually comes to collect it.
They've got such a different head shape to them Okawa ones that you've got. It's much more powerful than the Okawa. Yeah, it's just they're just so you can almost tell. If you just showed me the head of that, I'd be able to tell you. It's
with that structure, you could never throw enough food at that thing.
No.
Never throw enough food. It just keep going and going and going. It'd be mental.
Yeah. Unreal, that.
So yeah, serious result as well. I've not done the calculation to see where that's kind of been growing, but what a piece.
Are you still planning to weigh some of these fish that you're growing on?
Yeah, we've got some data from. I haven't kept up with it as much as I wanted, mate, which I knew would probably be the case. There's so much going on all the time, but just mega. Mad. So yeah, that was a nice bit of an update on where they're all at.
I think we'd like more people to send in some of the results that they've had with the auctions as well. Like it's it's really cool and to see what we you and Chris, say a lot of things and talk up a lot of the fish we sell, but
Yeah.
it's nice when we actually see the results of it, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's it. We're not talking it up, pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's what we
No.
know these fish are capable of, given all that experience that's sat behind it. So, yeah, nice to share them. And like I say, it would be amazing to see some more results from people who's had them, and see how you're getting on with them overall. So, last couple of bits. Just going to drop into this evening's questions, and we'll see what we've got, Joe. Glenn, what brand of koi food that can enhance colour of Benny? Glenn, if you've seen any previous videos, Sakai all the way for me. The colour food of that, again, is absolutely top draw and will get you serious results in a relatively short space of time as well, depending on the ratio using it to your other food. If you want a real short-term quick impact, use it 100%, especially while the water's really warm, and you will get serious results from that one. Are you using any colour food, Joe?
I did buy about a 5 kilogram sack, and I mixed it with some growth.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Sakai is what I'll say. And within about 3 weeks, I'd say about 60% of my collection, 65 centimeter Tancho Sankey, started Benny on the gill plate. And I immediately took it all out, put them back on Sakai, and it's disappeared. So, yeah, collective sigh of relief in the Mitchell household.
Mate, I'm so glad you've said that, because the amount of times I've experienced that, it's just because of cheap, nasty colour enhancers that put in, other means of enhancing. Spirulina is the stuff you need, pure, cultured, quality spirulina. And, it's expensive stuff. You can't skirt around the truth with that one.
I asked this Dr. David Poole about this in the article, and without giving much away, he said that the colour enhancers are digested by the fish, and they travel everywhere in the fish, in the blood system and in the pigment cells.
Right.
And he explained it to me, whereas if the pigment cells in the tancho spot on the head of the tancho are so full and so red that it doesn't have anywhere to put this colour enhancer, the koi, it then puts it to somewhere, and that's how it gets this secondary. But because it's that cheap, nasty paint, it doesn't last. So if you see the signs of secondary and you come off it immediately, there's a chance that it'll just wash it out of its system. But it was an interesting way of explaining it that I'd never considered.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Catherine, can you go through how to take photos of koi? Joe can certainly do this, but that's a long process. And what I'll say is we'll consider putting that on the list of videos to make for the channel, because it'll need a bit more in-depth than our explanation. What I will say is one of the real hacks to this is using a little bit of anesthetic and actually doping the fish up in a separate bowl, because it just chills everything out, makes it calmer for you, calmer and less stress for the fish. That's probably the top tip I'll give you, rather than getting into all the camera gear settings and all the rest of it. So
and don't photograph Karashi or Asagi, because they're just absolute nightmares. I don't know what it is with Karashi. You'd expect them to be really chill, but they just do do not settle in a bowl. Karashi Goi, I don't know what it is.
They're just mental, aren't they?
Yeah, mad.
That's it. Yes, you will have seen a child. He's still here. I'm surprised he's not been on. If you've not seen it already, Arthur is selling a rather nice koi plaque that was in his collection. I got for him. I'll actually show you. I'll get a video. But as he does, he's got that many different artifacts. It gets to a point where some have to go, and he's on us buying stuff. Says, "Well, sell some of your stuff." But there it is, guys. You can see it on my Facebook page. That's not coming through very well. One Ben, mate, it's quite a big thing as well. Blue background, it's stunning. You're selling it, mate, aren't you? One out of the collection. Get some stuff out of his bedroom so we can move. But yeah, look out for that. It's a great pen. He has got a small plaque, but we're just getting that one for now, aren't we? Yes. Right. Next question. Rob, can you explain why you stopped feeding Sakai grow sinking? Yeah, say stopped. I never really truly started. Gave it a go. I've said many, many times, sinking food is quite a hard one to manage. You've really got to be on the ball with it. Many breeders who use it are either using it in mud ponds or ponds where they're designed in such a way that they can clearly contain and manage the feeding of it properly. Momotaro has feeding platforms in a lot of the ponds where they're feeding sinking food to, so it's away from drains and they can clearly see what's being eaten and what's not. I've seen this in the pond where I've been using the feeders, so it's not a small pond, 20-foot long stretch of pond with a feeder on one corner, bottom drain in the middle. I've watched this feed within 10-15 minutes, a big percentage of it work its way to the bottom drain where it falls in, and that's going to be hard getting out because it's going to break down. It's going to be pretty heavy and dense just for the gravity and even the purge to pull it off. So that's my real complaint. I just don't think it can be managed very well if you're using a feeder. I've mainly said, if you're using sinking, I would advise manually feeding it while you're there at the pond and you can see what's been eaten, where it's all gone and what's gone off. Because when you're not going to be there for most of the time, when an auto feeder's chucking it in, don't know what's happening. And I basically trashed the pond within 7 days, 7-10 days of every time I was using it. The pond just fell apart. It's really, really hard to get the balance with it. And what I believe you'd be in a situation there is where it'd be hard to find where the feeding level is at the max end, because you're probably going to trash the water before you find that. So that's why.
I'm not keen on it, the idea of it either. Like, although I'm a novice in the hobby, I kind of feel as though exercise is good for all koi, and I feel like when you're just throwing in sinking food, the koi are pretty happy to just sit there and just eat it, whereas I quite like a competitive environment where the fish are having to compete. And I also think as a, if I'm raising koi that I want to grow big, I want to know the fish that are that next level competitive at eating, and it tends to be them ones are going to grow bigger, whereas you just chuck sinking in, it's not really a competitive thing for the koi. I mean, I guess you get less damage or whatever, but it's not for me either.
Yeah, no, it's I just think you can just observe so much more, and there's so much more control from using floating that's why it stays as my preference. Yeah, flush pipes smell horrible. If it's working for you, Rob, fair play, but that's my preference and take on it. I'm sure if you've maybe feeding the kind of levels I've been at, Rob, it can take a long time, certainly the bigger fish, for them to get it down. And just from having seen that movement, the hour feeding window I'm giving fish, I would have the biggest percentage of that sinking in the bottom drain. So, that's why we stay away with that one. Please don't rip me one. No, I would never do that, buddy. Can you have too big UV for a pond? Not really. I've certainly can have too small, but not too big. With UV clarifiers, which is what everyone's mainly buying, there'll be no harm other than it costing you more money to run. But the bigger units will generally have a bit more water volume, so you will get a better retention time as well, which is also important for your UVs. So no, can't overdo it. You can obviously move into the realm of UV sterilizers, which are a different beast, and there you want to be a little bit more careful. But ultimately, if you're using a sterilizer anyway, you're moving into a different realm altogether. So, generally, don't worry about it. And I think one more there to wrap up, Joe, because I know I'm going to be pushing it in a minute. Watched a guy who stated koi don't need lots of oxygen, they don't require it. Blew my mind. Someone experienced could come out with this. Wow. Any thought on this? Yeah, absolute and complete utter shite is what that is. I can't really say too much more about it. Oxygen is just of paramount importance, especially as it gets warmer. As it gets warmer, 100% saturation is a relatively low amount of dissolved oxygen in milligrams per litre. And there's so many things consuming it that rely on it. Your filtration bacteria, obviously the koi, oxygen is the lifeblood of it all. And without it, you're going to be it's going to be a fine line. Really, really fine line. Those who say you don't require it, one of my ponds lost its power now, given they're at 25 degrees. I won't have very long before it'd be a write-off. And that's literally how it is. It's massively important. And I can't believe stuff like that out there is circulating. But there we have it, mate. I'm sure you wouldn't be very comfortable not having your air pump on your pond, Joe.
Oh God, no way. But to be honest, I think there's quite an alarming amount of people that would be quite happy just having the biochamber aerated and nothing in the pond. But I think there's
Nothing wrong with that, mate. I will
Well,
stop you with one because that's how I actually, if you remember, they've got 10 ponds running here in that exact same way with the spray bar agitation.
yeah, but that's you've got that agitation, I guess, aren't you? Whereas, because I've read something that the biochamber and the nitrobacter can actually strip quite an alarming amount of the air out of the water in the biochamber. Now, I don't know the truth of that.
That's
but
always the interesting thing I find. There's so much you can read because the last conversation I had with Jasper from EA, guy I seriously respect, certainly in that field, was that biochambers designed in the right way. And this was, I say this specifically, he was talking 1.2 meter minimum of depth and a few other bits and bobs are actually more efficient aerators than the airstone in your pond.
Right, okay.
Hence why we went with that design in that particular system.
Mm.
But like we say, you will read one thing that says that, one thing that says another, and then in the end, we're all just left scratching our head.
Yeah.
Frustrating. But that was just general rule. You're going to be very hard to overdo it with oxygen. So
Yeah.
There we go, guys. Joe, thank you very much for joining us again, buddy.
Welcome, thank
to
you.
our other guests as well. And I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to get off now. We'll get my stomach filled because I am Hank. And we'll be back next week with our auction and another Q&A. So see what we can line up for that one. Thanks everyone who's tuned in.